Good morning and welcome wherever you're joining me. Today's daf is Bava Metzia Daf 106, Omid A. So let's dive straight in. So I'll just try and finish off from the previous daf so it makes sense of the context to continue the story. What it also said, they raised that element in the west, Eretz Yisrael. If one furrow was wind blasted along its entire length, adjacent to the other field that wind blasted was halacha. It is considered to be part of the regional disaster. Conversely, if one furrow remained undamaged along the entire length was halacha, so the remaining furrow meaning the entire field is not considered to be part of the regional disaster. If a fallow field is divided between the cultivated fields and the field that were wind blasted, was halacha. Alternatively, if there's a field of fodder between this field and the other fields that were wind blasted, was halacha. If the surrounding fields were planted with a different type of seed, was halacha. Likewise is wheat in relation to barley considered a different type of seed or not. Furthermore, if the entire world, i.e. all the surrounding fields, were blighted by wind blast, and he was affected by mildew. So what does it mean, mildew? Shidafon v'shelo b'veirakon. It would appear that if the other fields were wind blasted while his was ruined due to another cause, e.g. it was consumed by locusts, it's certainly not considered to be affected by the regional disasters of the Meiri. Zera acher shidafon yirokon. Since the halacha is according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and not that of Allah, none of these dilemmas have practical application. The Shulchan Aruch Mitzvah 322.1 and the commentary is there. Turning if the field of the entire world was struck by mildew, and his were blighted with wind blast, was the halacha. The Gemara responds, no resolution is found in any of these dilemmas, and the dilemmas shall stand and resolve the taker. The Gemara posed another question. If the owner said to the tenant farmer, plant the field with wheat, and he went and planted it with barley, the commentaries know that this halacha applies both to the tenant farmer and to a contractor, as the latter must also pay the value of properly grown wheat. The commentary attributed to Ritva, also the Rambam. And most of the valley was wind blasted, and the fields were barley of his were also wind blasted. What is the halacha? Do we say that the tenant farmer can say to him, even if I planted it with wheat, it would likewise have been wind blasted, as all the surrounding fields suffered the same fate? Or perhaps the owner could say to him, had you planted it with wheat, the following words would have been fulfilled for me, and then you shall decree a matter. What does that mean? Hava mikayim bi v'tigza omer. All these claims based on verses must be considered in light of the underlying halachic principles. Since the tenant promised to pay a certain sum for use of the field, the landowner should not have taken into account any circumstances beyond his control, and should be able to claim the full sum. But if there was a regional disaster, the tenant can claim that since this misfortune was suffered by the entire region, it should be shared by the owner as well. Nevertheless, as this argument concerns an individual's fortune, it may result to any claim that enables him to escape responsibility for the disaster, since the standard tenancy agreement does not make any mention of this factor whatsoever. Likewise, in any case, when the tenant fails to fulfill the contract as required, the landowner has a right to enforce their agreement as written, as it will be established for you, and the light shall shine upon your ways. Job 22:28. Since you might have merited greater success by following my wishes. The Gemara responds, it stands to reason that the owner can say to him, had you planted it with wheat, it would have fulfilled for me, and you shall decree a matter, and it will be established for you, and the light shall shine upon your eyes, upon your way, sorry. We will pose another question. If all the fields of the owner of the land were wind blasted, and the halacha was Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that a regional disaster is one that affects the majority of the fields in the valley, questions are not relevant to the practical application of halacha. Bava Metzia Daf 22.1. And this one was also wind blasted with them, but the majority of the valley was not wind blasted. Was halacha? Do we say that since the majority of the valley was not wind blasted, the tenant farmer does not subtract the amount owed for his tenancy? Well, this was not a regional disaster, or perhaps one could claim that since all the lands of the owner were wind blasted, the tenant can say to the owner, this happened due to your bad fortune, all your fields were wind blasted. The Gemara responds, it stands to reason that the owner can say to the tenant, if it were due to my bad fortune, a little would have been left for me, as is written, For we are left but a few from many, Jeremiah 42:2, which indicates that even one suffering from misfortune does not lose all he has. The Gemara discusses a similar case. If all the fields of the tenant farmer were wind blasted, and most of the valley was wind blasted, and this field was also wind blasted with them, what is halacha? Do we say that since most of the valley was wind blasted, the tenant farmer subtracts for the owner the amount owed for his tenancy and does not pay? Or perhaps, since all of the tenant land were wind blasted, the owner can say to the tenant did damage due to your bad fortune, as all your fields are wind blasted. The Gemara responds, it stands to reason that the owner can say to him, it occurred due to your bad fortune. The Gemara asks, why should this be so? Here too, let us say to the owner, if it was due to my bad fortune, a little would have been left for me, as the following verse would have been fulfilled for me, for we are but left a few from many. The Gemara answers, this is not a valid claim, because the owner can say to the tenant, had you been worthy of something being left for you, it would have been left from your own private land, not the field you paid to cultivate. The Gemara raises an objection from a Mishnah to the ruling that if there is a regional disaster, the cultivator subtracts the produce he owes as part of his tenancy. The halacha is that if one sells his field in Eretz Yisrael in a time when the halacha of the Jubilee are in effect, he does not have the right to purchase it from the buyer until 2 years have passed. The Mishnah teaches in Arachin 29b, if it was a year of wind blasted, what does that mean? Shenash Shidafa. The halacha is that if one sells his field to another, he may not repurchase his field before the passage of years of the crops, Leviticus 25:15, an expression that means the passage of at least 2 crop yielding yields. This is a Torah edict. Furthermore, the halacha is that the concept years of the crops includes only those years during which there is no general famine and the crops grew in this region, even if due to neglect or natural causes nothing grew in this particular field. A field cannot be redeemed prior to the passage of 2 years. If the field was wind blasted or suffered from mildew in one of the years, or if one of the years was a sabbatical year, the year is discounted. Mesurayim Hilchot Shemitah V'Yovel 11:10. Crops or mildew, or if it was a sabbatical year, Shemitah Shavuos, a sabbatical year is the last year of the 7-year sabbatical cycle. Although the halacha of the sabbatical year is based on Torah, Leviticus 25:1-7, sometimes I maintain and get into 6b, and the observance today is by rabbinic ordinance. Commentators explain that this is because the traditions enabling performance of the mitzvah by Torah law do not commonly exist. Most commentaries indeed rule that the halacha in accordance with this opinion. The term for the sabbatical year Shemitah means abandonment or release. The meaning of the word reflects the essence of the sabbatical year, a year in which all agricultural land must lie fallow and working land is prohibited unless it is necessary to keep existing crops alive. Or produce that does grow is ownerless and must be left unguarded in the field, and any creature, including people, wild animals, and birds, can have any access to it. Or if those years were like the years of Elijah, in which no rain fell, see 1 Kings 17:1, 18:1-2, they do not count as part of his tally of years before he may repurchase his land. The Gemara analyzes the Mishnah. This Tana teaches that the case of wind blast and mildew are similar to the case where the years were like the years of Elijah. Just as the years of Elijah is referring to a time when there was no produce at all, so to hear wind blast and mildew are referring to cases when there was no produce at all. But by inference, one can learn that if there was some produce, it counts towards his tally of years before he may repurchase his land, and we do not say it is a regional disaster. The Gemara answers, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok said, there the case with regard to the field sold is different. As the verse states with regard to the field and leasing of fields, according to the number of years of the crops he shall sell you, Leviticus 25:15, which is referring to years in which there is produce harvested in the world. Rashi said to Rav Kahana, if that is so, then the blood of years should count for him as part of his tally of years, as at least 3 is produce. At least there is produce outside of Eretz Yisrael. Rav Kahana said to him, the battle is an abrogation of the king. What does that mean? Since the sabbatical year is an obligation of God, who stated that one may not farm during the sabbatical year, it is not considered a year of produce as required by halacha. As this category does not depend on the actual presence of growing produce, which could be found in the fields of Gentiles in Eretz Yisrael, but rather whether this year is defined as in principle as being suitable for crops. God, therefore, it should not be included in the number of years before land is repurchased. Marzutra, son of Rav Mari, said to Ravina, if that is so, that the sabbatical year is entirely disregarded, Then, in the case of one who consecrates his field and wants to redeem it, the Zvat should not count for him for a deduction. The Torah in Leviticus 27:16-19 states that if an ancestral field, i.e. a field in Eretz Yisrael that had been in one's family since the initial division of the land, is consecrated to the temple, is evaluated for the purpose of redemption at a fixed price of a field, no matter how much of a yield it actually produces. This sum is established as 50 silver shekels for all the years to the period of one jubilee or 50 years. When considered on a per year basis, it equals a seller, the shekel of the Torah, plus the pudayon for each year. The redemption price is set at that rate, with the corresponding sum deducted for each year since the previous jubilee year has passed. The Torah further states that if the one who sanctified the field redeemed it himself, he must add a fifth to the price of the redemption of the price of the field when it is redeemed. Why did we learn in a Mishnah in Avachim 25a that the one who consecrated the field gives a seller and a pudayon? Noting seller ufudayon. If one redeemed the consecrated field from the temple treasury, he must pay a seller and a pudayon for every year remaining until the jubilee year. 4:6. A biblical seller, which is equivalent to 4 dinars, consists of 48 pudayon. Upon dividing 50 seller, which is standard price for a field, by 49 years that the field is used from one jubilee year to the next, the value of the field for each year individually is approximately 1 seller and 1 pudayon, which is worth 16 prutot to the temple treasury for each year remaining until the jubilee year, including the sabbatical year, in accordance with the payment prescribed by the Torah. See Leviticus 27:16-19. The amount to be paid per year, which is 50 shekels divided by the years remaining until the jubilee year, should not take the upcoming sabbatical years into account. Ravina said to him, "There it is different, as it is suitable for laying out produce on it. Although one may not plant the field during the sabbatical year, one may use it for other purposes." Shmuel said, they taught the halacha that if there is a regional disaster, the cultivator subtracts from the produce he owes as part of his tenancy only if the tenant planted the field. If the cultivator did not plant the field at all, even if all the field in the area suffered from the regional disaster, he pays the owner the full price owed for the tenancy. And 22:2. And it sprouted then, and grasshoppers consumed it. Or he planted it with a different seed. But if he did not plant it at all, the tenant is not entitled to subtract from the amount he owes, even to the regional disaster. The owner can say to him, "Had you planted it, perhaps my merit would have prevented the field from being affected by the epidemic, and the following verse would have been fulfilled for me. They will not be shamed in the time of evil, and in the days of famine they shall be satisfied." In Psalms 37:19, where Sheshet raises an objection from a bride. In the case of a shepherd who is herding the animals of others, and he left his flock and came to the town, and in the meantime a wolf came and tore an animal to pieces, or a lion came and trampled one of the flock, we do not say definitively that had he been there, he would have rescued them, and therefore he is liable due to his absence. Rather, the court estimates with regard to him. If he could have rescued his animal by chasing a beast of this kind away, he is liable, as his departure from the scene was certainly a contributing factor to the damage. If not, he is exempt from liability. According to Shmuel's opinion, why is the shepherd exempt from liability? They will say to him, "Had you been there, the following words would have been fulfilled for me. Your servant smote both the lion and the bear." In 1 Shmuel 17:36, the more answers. This is because the shepherd could say to the owner, "If you are worthy of a miracle occurring to you, a miracle would have indeed occurred, as it did to Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa." Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa was a Tana who lived toward the end of the Second Temple period. He was a student of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Very few of his statements have been recorded, but those that are recorded are mostly in the realm of Agada. He is known mainly through stories about his piety and cleaving to God, as well as his righteousness, his willingness to make do with the minimum of earthly possessions, and being a miracle worker, he served as a symbol of the righteous man. He served as a symbol of the righteous man in all of his behaviors. When his goat brought bears impaled on the horns without any assistance on the part of the shepherd, see Tanis 25a. Namar asked, and let the owner say to him, "Granted, I was not worthy of a great miracle, but a small miracle I was worthy." The Gemara concludes this is indeed difficult. This is moving on to the Ahmed. We'll just read that footnote, what it means I was worthy. a small miracle I was worthy. If a small miracle I was worthy, the Nisa Zuta Chanizina. The Rosh writes that it is evident from the ruling of the Mishnah with regard to Be'eri 93a to 103a that miracles are not taken into account at all, if the Shmuel statement would appear to be inaccurate. According to the Minchas HaBoker, there is a fundamental difference between the two situations. In Shmuel's case, the tenant is liable to pay an obligation from which he seeks to exempt himself. With regard to Bailey, there is a general principle that a Bailey is not liable to pay for loss of the deposit caused by an unavoidable accident. For this and other reasons, Shmuel's ruling is not rejected and is accepted as halacha, despite the fact that the question raised against it was left as a difficulty. That's the end of the Omid. I wish you a very good day and hope for peaceful news in Israel. All the best. Bye.